We are moving towards February and the days are getting longer. We can almost see the sun. If you can see way behind me on the top of the mountains, the sun is actually shining there. And very soon I will be able to see the sun as well from where I live in the small cabin. Moving into February, we are infused with the Sun-Mars-Venus conjunction and a new moon in Capricorn. If you want to know what that's about, you can watch my previous video. I link it down below. Let's take a closer look at the planetary movements coming into February. We have three major themes coming up. Neptune re-enters Aries, Uranus stations direct, and we have a full moon in Leo. This will be a huge shift in society and world politics. I guess you don't have to be an astrologer to have noticed something's coming up. Neptune rules the oceans, rivers and lakes. Where we find Neptune in our horoscopes can describe a place where we are never satisfied and are always longing for more. Where Saturn is about creating boundaries and limits, Neptune is about dissolving them. What Neptune touches can get underestimated, indistinct and foggy. Neptune is an outer planet, heavily impacting governments, world politics, and human societies at the larger scales. Neptune is also the god of oil and earthquakes, and this can be a time where we feel shaken to the core. We might be disillusioned by the world politics, governments, world leaders, corruption and bullying. Visioning a better world we can escape to. Well, there is no escape. Neptune has re-entered Aries for good this time. We have to move forward. 0 degrees of Aries is a powerful point. It is the point above any other marking the start of new eras. This can be a new beginning for humankind. What's it gonna be? I don't know. But we have the opportunity to start creating it now for ourselves and for the people around us. Guess who got caught up in astrological studies and forgot about the high tides and low tides? And I was going to fetch water to do my dishes, but now it's impossible. So either the dishes has to wait for tomorrow, or I will have to come down here in the dark and get water. Can you see where the fresh water is coming up from under the ice? Well, as it seems, I was not the only one coming for fresh water today. Just as I arrived here at the ice where the river comes into the ocean, the otter just came up from the ice, and he was so quick, and I was so amazed I couldn't get the camera out and film him in time. So I'm sitting here hoping to get a second glance. Unfortunately, the otter didn't reappear, so let's get back to astrology. Uranus was discovered in 1781 by William Herschel. He was using the great 40-foot telescope, and he was looking towards the sign of Gemini. Uranus has an orbit of 84 years, and this year, late April, Uranus will be back in Gemini once again. Uranus is about new ideas, revolutionary changes, in particular technological inventions that gives us more freedom. So it should be no surprise that Uranus is linked to the discovery and distribution of electricity, and also linked to computer science and the Internet, World Wide Web. Perhaps not so obvious is Uranus' link to genetic engineering, but anything shocking and unconventional falls under his reign. Looking at where we are now, AI is the biggest and most Uranian tech. And with Uranus going into Gemini, we can expect accelerated growth in this area, most likely in an unconventional and surprising way. We find Uranus prominent in revolutionary times, overthrowing old regimes and more power to the common people. Uranus is linked to the Industrial Revolution, the French Revolution, and the American Civil War. Uranus, like Neptune, is an outer planet. It's very much linked to human society, world politics, and the collective. But we all have Uranus somewhere in our own natal chart. And where we have Uranus might be a place where we are or feel different. On the 21st of January, Uranus will station direct at 27 degrees of Taurus. It will appear as if Uranus is standing completely still in the sky for a whole week. If you have any personal planets at 27 or 28 degrees of Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, or Aquarius, you can expect the unexpected. Shocking news, something breaking apart. It doesn't have to be anything bad, not at all. It can be a time where you get new ideas or experience a breakthrough. Well, I remembered about high tides and low tides today, so no more excuses for not doing dishes. But look at this ice growing out from the stream. It's like a second ice age. Let's have a look at the natal chart for Norway. I'm using the chart from 1814, when the constitution of the Kingdom of Norway was acknowledged. and I feel this chart is still very much alive in Norway. Looking at charts for countries is called mundane astrology. It's similar to natal charts for people, but with a few differences. The sun in the chart is said to represent the leaders, the government or the king, and the moon the people. Norway's sun is in the sign of Taurus, but who does it represent? Prince Christian Frederick of Denmark? The Eidsvoll Constitution who elected Prince Christian Frederick to become King of Norway? Or the new Norwegian Parliament, Stortinget? Taurus is among other things a stubborn earth sign. And looking at the Eidsvoll Constitution, we find that 1/3 of the 112 elected delegates were in fact farmers. The moon representing the people of Norway is at 24 degrees of Aries. What can that tell us? Aries is a fire sign ruled by Mars. It is the first sign of the zodiac and represents new beginnings and the spark of life. Aries is also a sign connected to young people. Did Norway have an old or young population at this time? Doing some research, I found that Norway had a very young population in 1814 and experienced a significant population growth. The theme of youth, coming to life and new beginnings is prominent in the chart for Norway. Norway has no less than 4 planets at 0 degrees, and that's really special. You don't see many charts so heavily stating new beginnings as this one. Let's take a closer look at them, starting with Jupiter right there on the ascendant. Jupiter is in 0 degrees of Virgo, but close enough to the ascendant to be in conjunction. The ascendant is for one thing representing the image of the nation. And I can't help to notice the fact that it is in Leo, and the Norwegian coat of arms is of a lion. People with Jupiter in Virgo are often seen with strong work ethics and believing in good service. Jupiter is also linked to working overseas in different cultures. Uranus in Sagittarius is a freedom-loving combination that favors progress and innovation, concerned with change and resistance to change. But it revolves around what people believe and having the freedom to pursue it. The lessons for society with Saturn in Aquarius is often about tolerating people who are different, being serious about being different and standing up for oneself, ensuring that change is being implemented in a responsible way, new friendships with old nations. Mars in Cancer implies a nation of people having to fight for their families, tradition and heritage. Looking back in history to the year of 1814, we find it described as the most significant, monumental, earth-shattering year of the modern history of Norway. But what about Norway and the time we are living in now? What does it look like in 2026? Will all the changes the astrologers been talking about for the last years, will they affect Norway? And how? Let's have a look at a few possibilities together with the chart for the full moon that's coming up in Leo. In the inner ring, we have the Norwegian chart from 1814 that we just looked at. And in the outer ring, we see all the planetary placements for the full moon in Leo now on the 1st of February. As always on a full moon, we have the moon and the sun opposite each other. The sun is at 13 degrees of Aquarius and the moon is at 13 degrees of Leo. In the chart for Norway, there are no planets at 13 degrees making contact with the full moon. But the MCIC axis is close, just 1 degree off in fact. This indicates that there can be something coming up. But what could that be? The MC is considered a very public and visible point. It's often about the government, king, or other prominent people. So we might see Norwegians making headlines in world news around this full moon. Of course, the full moon is also squaring the IC, pointing to the foundation of the nation, the land and infrastructure, domestic affairs, home and security. I don't know what or if something will come up, but it will be interesting to see if it does. We often hear history repeats itself. I see astrology as a tool to work with that, to study the natural cycles of life, to look to the past and learn, and to prepare for the future. The last cycle of Neptune in Aries started in 1861. What was it like in Norway back then? Is there something coming up now that was prominent in 1861? What can we expect with Neptune in Aries this time around? Let's start by looking at 1861. This was the previous time Neptune entered Aries. In the inner ring, we see the placement of some planets from Norway's chart of 1814. Neptune was then in the sign of Sagittarius, and that will always be important. It's like the Neptunian signature for Norway. With Neptune in Sagittarius, we can find a nation of people that's longing to go far away, to explore, discover, and travel, dreaming of a casual and carefree society. In 1861, Norway was still in union with Sweden, and Neptune moving into Aries didn't change anything about that. The union held all the way through Neptune's journey in Aries. Today, Norway is an independent country, not part of the European Union, although we are invested in NATO. Will that relationship hold strong? Norway did not experience any wars when Neptune was in Aries, but a lot of Norwegians was fighting a war, far away, overseas, in the Civil War of America. 6,000 Norwegian immigrants fought in the American Civil War, most of them in the Norwegian Regiment of Wisconsin. They suffered heavy losses. A lot of soldiers died, including their commander Hans Christian Heg. Back in Norway, the years with Neptune in Aries was a period with economic growth, although still a significant emigration to America. Politically, there was a rise. A new opposition elite against the Swedish-Norwegian Union was emerging. It was an era forming what would become the Norway we have today.